Rachel Carlson, how are you?
Hi, fantastic. So good to see you, Liz.
I'm so glad to have you here. I interviewed you before with two other Worldschool Hub organizers, and then we met in person in Florence. That was super fun for a week. We participated, my daughter and I participated in one of your awesome hubs. So I'm really glad to have you here because you're very well known. You've been, a very experienced world schooler. You have lots of tips to share. I have a bunch of questions for you. And let's see, hopefully people will be joining us soon. If you're watching the replay in the Facebook group, Worldschooling, Traveling, Digital Nomad, Trailblazing Families, just write #replay and go ahead and ask your questions, and Rachel's in the group and she'll come back later to answer them. So Rachel, are you ready for all my questions?
All right, shoot them.
Awesome. Okay, so I think you're from the Midwest. Yes, let me know where you're from originally.
You're correct. Yeah. So both my husband and I grew up in Wisconsin, and our kids were all born and raised here. We've always traveled with them. They all had their first flights within probably 6 months of life. And I mean, long flights, 8-9 hour flights.
Wow.
And we lived in a wonderful community. We stayed here until 2014 because we realized living in one spot and maintaining a house really cut into our travel time, and it also cut into the time that we had with our kids. Because they were in public school, my husband was working the 9-to-5 job. So we gave all that up in 2014. We lived in the US for 4 years, 2 years in Hawaii and 2 in South Carolina. And we rented fully furnished there. The kids were in public school, had a really great time. And then all of a sudden, my husband's like, we're working online, we're paying for a fully furnished rental. We could be in any rental that has internet and we would be just fine. And we're like, oh, of course. Like, one of these things that, what do they say? It's like you're hit by a clue by four, like bam. And so we got the idea, all right, we can do this. We're going to homeschool for a year and just see if we like the lifestyle of living on the road, because we always carved out time for travel. It was always something really important to my husband and me. When we added the kids, it was just a no-brainer. Like, of course, we're going to travel with the kids because we want to show them what we're doing.
That's
so
awesome.
We gave up our full residence in 2018. So we just finished 5 years on the road last month.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We are coming up on our 7-year nomads versatory or whatever, but
yeah.
we've gone back to our home base a little bit too. So not 100% full time. Okay. So how many kids do you have and what are their ages?
I've got 3. So boy, girl, boy. We have an 18-year-old, a 16-year-old, and 13-year-old.
Okay.
So
and one of them is taking a break back in the States, but you're actively traveling with the 2 younger ones, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So the oldest just completed a year of high school. He decided he wanted a real diploma instead of what I was writing through the homeschool records. And he got everything lined up, went to high school last year, lived with grandparents, had we would say a mixed experience, a really fun year, but going back to school after 4 years of world schooling and not sitting in classes and listening to lectures and taking classes you didn't really want to learn about. So he had a mixed experience, but he has his real diploma now and he's off-road tripping the US and plans to do all kinds of crazy things that at age 18, I never would have realized. Like, I was living in a box and we were supposed to go to school and then go to more school and then get a job and, do all the things in order.
Yeah.
And we did that and decided we weren't really happy. And now I get to watch my kids saying, all right, maybe I want to go to New Zealand, or maybe I'm going to travel to Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, or I have this volunteer opportunity that I could go do in Europe. And so it's really cool to see how he's going to plan his life now that he doesn't have the same kind of boundaries like within his lines of thinking that I did as a kid.
That's awesome.
So super excited about him.
That is super cool because, again, I can relate because one of my kids has also taken a break to go back to try, living back in the States for a bit and trying school and mixed results. So I'm hoping she will agree to be out on the road with us again in the future. But so the younger ones, how have they been learning while you're traveling and world schooling?
So we generally unschool our kids. We're not radical unschoolers because I still make them go to museums. Like, that's just one of the things we do with travel because we want to actually learn something while we're there. So we do a lot of museums and I just tell the kids, like, go read something, go learn something. I don't test them. I don't quiz them, whatever. Just go be exposed, go have fun, point out the funny things, make a little story about it. I don't mind. Like, we're just there and we're learning. And I've learned so much just by being on site that I never would have learned, sitting in a classroom. So we just spent some time in Normandy, and to be on the D-Day beaches and to see like where the paratroopers were coming down and how difficult it was for them to gain access to different areas. And one of the bridges they captured was like a quarter mile from where we were staying. And if they had not captured that bridge, they wouldn't have had the same amount of success that they had. And, it's just putting it all into perspective. Like, I have very little interest in war history, but when we were there, I was just fascinated. So I take my kids to museums, we go see the historical monuments, and then we do a lot of things. Maybe we'll join a cooking class, or we definitely do a lot of hiking in nature areas. If there's a university, sometimes they have community offerings that we could go to and learn a little bit about the area, the flora, the fauna. So I'm always on the lookout for things to do with them. And then also what their interests are help drive our travels as well. So my daughter was very interested in Turkey and all of the ruins there. So she planned, oh my gosh, do you guys want to hire her? She had about a 300-day itinerary for Turkey. And we had to go through, it was crazy the amount of stuff she found that she was interested in. So we had to tailor it all down to, we spent a little over 2 months there. And we just had to pick and choose what parts of the country are we going to go to, what can we cut out, what is really important to see, and then we built the trip around that. But with all the research that she did in the back end, she learned a ton about Turkey. And then again, here we are, and now we can see like, oh, look at how Istanbul is right here between the continents and what access they have to the Black Sea and everything in there. And it was just, being on site and learning is something you can't replicate it, really. I mean, even with Zoom meetings and, being into some kind of computer module where you can scroll around and look around the area, it's just not the same as being there. So we just do a lot of hands-on learning wherever we are. And like I said, I make them go to the museums. They do a lot of reading on their own, but I'm not particular about what they're learning.
I'm sure they find something in the museum of interest. This is awesome because it's so much better than, a book, reading about that stuff in a book, or even like you said, audio visual or whatever. Because it's right there in front of them, and it's just more exciting. And do you find that they learn about things and then it kind of they keep researching it, they keep looking into it later, or do you jump to another country and now they're learning something totally new? Like, does it ever come back maybe in the future?
Well, I think sometimes it does. It's not, again, I don't push it. So if it's something that they're interested in, but earlier this year we were in Greece. So we were looking at all the Greek ruins. And then after that, went to Turkey. So then we were seeing Greek and Roman ruins in Turkey. So like it kind of circled back, like we were spiraling around. And each time we came around, we knew a little bit more about it. So I think it naturally happens that topics, kind of present themselves over and over again as we travel through areas, especially areas that are related like that. And you can see like the Ottoman Empire.
You see patterns and you see how they interconnect and stuff. That's amazing. I just want to check the comments. Julie says, hola from Mexico City. Andreas is here in Bansko, Bulgaria. And by the way, here's the Bansko Nomad Fest t-shirt.
There you are.
I went to it earlier. This is too. I'm speaking on Thursday. And my topic is, yes, you can be a digital nomad with kids. Julie says, I can so relate to what you've just said regarding doing the thing, school, university work. Grew up in the Midwest too. That's just what you did. And Chang Si Min is zooming in, I think from Malaysia. She's a friend of both of ours. So,
oh yeah.
Cool. Okay. So let me ask, do you think your kids want to attend university? Like the 18-year-old is going to go on a road trip or travel a bit, but do any of your 3 kids plan to go to university?
We were just talking about this last night, actually, with some cousins of ours. And I think right now, so we were talking about Jasper's experience in high school, and, it was kind of a mixed, it was mixed for him. Yeah. But my daughter, they were asking her, so what do you want to do? Are you going to try high school? Because for a while, all my kids wanted to settle. They all wanted to go to school. They were just sick of traveling. And part of that was because we weren't interacting with other teens. Yeah. So we fixed that, actually. And so for the last 2 years, our travels have been much more rich. But as far as like going back to high school, neither of my younger kids care to do it after watching Jasper's experience. However, we are still talking about university. So I honestly think the kids would have they wouldn't have difficulty getting into a good school. I mean, they might have to work a little at it, but they are so well-rounded and the skills they have are really darn impressive.
Yeah. You're so
If
mature.
they want to go to university, yeah, I'm just not concerned about it. So if they want to go, they can. And we were just talking about those first couple years of adulthood when you are in university. You know, you're living in the dorms, you're making your own choices, you have your own freedom, and they're really important years to like just step into adulthood. But at the same time, I'm watching my 18-year-old going, all right, the kids are already in Florida. Like he called us 2 days ago, he was in Hilton Head Island, and then the next morning he's like, yeah, we're in Tampa now. So like they're just doing really cool things no matter what. And those years are going to be awesome years, whether you're in school or not in school, because it's just part of life where you don't have a lot of responsibility, you don't have a lot of things holding you back. So it's really sky's the limit. And yeah, so right now, the other two, I don't know that they're looking into schooling, though I think my daughter would love it. I think that social situation would be really good for her. So we're not encouraging one way or the other. It's going to be their choice.
Well, we have a lot of friends who have older Worldschool kids, and many of them, if they want to go to university, got into great schools and are doing well. Yeah. Okay, let's get into some practical matters because you're very experienced, and I wanted to pick your brain on some stuff. Let's talk about packing. Do you pack light or do you take lots of stuff?
We are super light, and some of the lightest people I know. And this is even when the kids were little. So when they were younger, we would just pack one giant suitcase for our family of 5 because kids' clothes don't take up much room at all. I mean, little kids. So we would just check one big bag, and then on the carry-on on the flight, we would just have our diaper bag and whatever activities and snacks and water the kids needed. So it was pretty easy to just have that one bag to lug around, and then everything else was pretty hands-free. We would travel with a stroller, just a really compact umbrella stroller. But as the kids got older, what I realized is if we had one big bag, everybody was rifling through it all the time. Like I wasn't picking out the clothes for the kids each day. So everyone's picking their own things and digging through everyone else's stuff. So it just became a bit of a nightmare. So we switched tactics, and then we all went to carry-on luggage. And we started off just with a school-size backpack. Mm-hmm. And that's that cool. Each of us had a school-size backpack, and we had to fit our computers and devices and cords and clothing and any books we wanted. And then we have one small roll-on bag, and it did get up to a medium-sized suitcase, but now we're back down to a 22-inch roller bag for our checked luggage. So in that bag, we have any of the sharps and liquids. So we carry around kitchen knives and hair cutting scissors. And then I've got a first aid kit with a bunch of essential oils and other things that I like to have.
Okay, so you check that bag.
So we have one shared checked bag, but it's carry-on size, again, so that we're not lugging around a bunch of stuff. Makes cobblestones a lot easier, makes going up flights of stairs.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, I mean, I have a packing video in this group, and also I reposted on YouTube. It's gotten a couple hundred views so far, but I need to do a new one because when we were in Italy, when we met up with you, my daughter and I did carry-on only, and we each had a 30-liter backpack and a small, roller bag. And I couldn't bring my kitchen knives this time because, the Airbnb is not very good, but anyway, and I couldn't bring my espresso grinder. Just certain gotta go without. Okay, let's talk about traveling with teens, because obviously you've been traveling with your kids since they were little, and now they're teens. So, I mean, it is a challenge because it seems like most, maybe 2/3 of families worldschooling have younger kids, I guess. Not as many teens. Sometimes teens want to go back to high school or whatever, have this normal high school thing. They want to go to prom, and I know you have a solution for that. So what is it like with your teens?
So when the kids were little, traveling with them was super easy because we just said, okay, we're going here, and they would say, yay. But as they got older, they had more opinions, which is exactly what we want them to have. Okay. And the two basic things is they need more autonomy and they need access to peers. So we had to work that into our travel plan. So with autonomy, like I said, my daughter did a ton of travel planning for us. She helps with pop-up itineraries and a lot of our choices that we make, even, and it's so helpful. We'll tell her our budget and where we want to stay, and she will go through Airbnb and comb through everything. She knows that we need a kitchen and we need Wi-Fi, and we typically have a washing machine too. Just we found that that's the easiest for us. Yeah. And then you're not lugging things.
Light, you don't have a lot of clothes to wear.
Right, right. So laundry access is important for us. So she'll go through in Airbnb and pick out a bunch of spots within our budget. And then we just have to look at 5 or 7 places and make a choice as a family which one we want to stay in. Saves me hours. So she's super helpful with that. And then she's also really bright about it because she'll say, you know what, looks like this place for $100 more, Mom, we could have a pool. And, you know, so that we can talk about some of those budget choices. Like, okay, it's going to be November and it probably won't be very warm. Is that worth the extra $100? And then we can make the choice. But it helps her like put together how we plan our budget and how we stay on track with that. So incorporating their interests, incorporating them in the planning is really, really important. You know, in some, sorry?
I'm working on that. I mean, my daughter's 14 and she helps a bit, but you know, it's hard. She's not as savvy as your daughter yet, but your daughter's older, so.
True. Yeah, and it has to be something they want to do. Like the younger one, he'll look at the list of Airbnbs after she's completed it, but he's, you know, it's just not his passion to go through Airbnb and see what's available.
Right.
But also like as far as incorporating their interests, like I said, she was very interested in the ruins, so we did, which I am too. So we did lots and lots of historical sites as we travel. But also sometimes all they want to do is go to Costco or Starbucks. And you know what? Who the heck cares? Like for them, it's important. You know, I don't need to go to Starbucks, but for them, they're like, oh, we went to Starbucks in Mexico and in Spain. And in, you know, it's one of these things like special for a teenager, right? Like really Instagrammable. And they always say like, we've been to every Costco in Spain because there's 2 and we went to both of them. But it's fun because, you know, as an American, I don't want to say that I'm super American. I like to think I'm a bit more out of the box, but at the same time, that's very much part of American culture. And when you go to a Costco abroad, you're seeing different local products, but you're also seeing some of the familiar favorites. So it is kind of, it's a neat way to just venture into a new culture in a new country.
Yeah.
Then for the kids, what else? Yeah, so we're talking about their autonomy and making choices.
Has it gotten, I mean, she's planning more, but socially, has it gotten more of a challenge?
Socially, the big challenge was before we started the pop-ups, because I think now that we have the events going, there's a lot of families that we see over and over again, and the kids are really good about keeping up with their best buds. So between WhatsApp and social media and what else? Oh, one of mine is a big Fortnite and Minecraft player. Like they can stay in touch with their friends, and you know, Be Real, that's the new one we're doing. So if you don't have a Be Real account, that's where we are now. You know Be Real?
No.
I didn't know it was gonna turn into a commercial for this. So Be Real is a new social app, and you tell them what time zone you're in, or just like general, Asian hours or European hours. And one time a day, you get a notification, and you have 2 minutes to take a photo of what's in front of you, including a selfie at the same time. And then you can see what everybody's doing. So it's supposed to be, you know, like one time I was in bed with my eye mask on. So yeah, that's what I was doing. And other times, like we just made a cherry pie. So that here's a half-eaten cherry pie that we just made. So that's pretty cute. And then the kids stay in touch with each other. And it's just like a little snippet that you see of all your friends' lives.
That's cute.
So we do give them more time socially to be on apps and on, you know, social media.
That's how that's been so spread out.
Right. Yeah. So when we can do things in person, we always do, but you know, it doesn't always happen that every single day of our lives are with other world schoolers. And in fact, we need some downtime as well. So in the in-between time, they can keep up with their friends that way.
Let me read a couple of the comments. So Julie says, doing the thing, following the system really boxes in and limits your mind in terms of the possibilities you see out there. I don't want that for my daughter. I want loads of possibilities and the confidence to pursue them. Hear, hear. Lauren said, my son will be 7, 8 when we hopefully launch. He's very sporty kids. Most days is playing football, soccer, tennis, biking, caipira. I don't know how to pronounce that. Have you found it possible to access sporting clubs, communities for kids when you've traveled? Are your kids sporty at all?
We are not of the sporty sort. I do have a golfer, but that's a bit more of an individual activity. But I do know families who have been able to find local, especially with football, worldwide soccer, that you can find local clubs to get your kids into. And typically at a park, there, you know, if there's a pickup game, people are pretty good about letting anybody who wants to play come in and play the game. So we've done that too.
Yeah, and my girls have done karate, gymnastics, and other things like in Colombia and other places. And I think if you're in a country long enough, you can sign up for a league for a little while. Okay, so again, we've mentioned that you guys created this Worldschool Pop-Up Hub. So we will put that in the website in the links. But can you just briefly talk about why you guys launched this and how it's going so far?
Awesome. Yeah. So basically it came down to the kids not wanting to travel anymore because we didn't have buddies. And we were very good about watching the Worldschool boards and, hey, we'll be in New Zealand, who's going to be there? And, just missing families by 1 or 2 days, or you get to an area and then you can't connect for whatever reason. So finally we're like, maybe we could just draw Worldschoolers to where we are if they have enough time to, plan around it. And I had a Worldschool friend who moved to Bentonville, Arkansas, and we had decided we're going to go spend a month there with you this summer. And I thought, well, let's just see if anyone will come. So I put up a little blurb and said, we're going to be here. Anyone want to come for a week and hang out? And we had 8 families come. And within the first day or two, my kids were like, oh my gosh, we have to do this again. This is super cool. So we ran one more that summer in Madison, Wisconsin. And then from there, it just took off into, it's a business, but it's more of a service. Like we try to keep the fees really low just to cover time in the background for the host and for me doing all the back end
like
admin stuff.
100 or whatever, right?
Yeah. So the early bird rates are 100 a week, and then regular rates are 140, and it's per family. So if you've got grandparents, you can bring them along. Doesn't matter how many kids you have, just bring them. And then we have a discount for families in need. So if 140 is out of the budget.
We have to find our own accommodation. And basically
Right.
you organize it, you have the website, you promote it, people sign up, and then they show up, and whoever's the host, it's you and now other parents, other families are hosting. They plan a whole itinerary. So that's basically what that 100 plus is for, is just like all the organization. So that is a great deal.
Yeah, so we get everybody there, and then the itinerary hits the highlights of the area. So, when we were in Florence, of course, you want to see this certain gallery or, go up to that wonderful viewpoint. And so those ideas make it onto the itinerary, but then it's super casual. So, what, your family's not a hiking family? Well, then don't come to the hike. We'll see you later at the cafe, and we'll sit on the rooftop and watch the people walk by below. And so it's just a casual, really nice way to meet other families. And then the people that you do meet, now you're connected. Now you can find those guys again somewhere else on the planet, and it makes it a lot easier. So like you're building your network, you're having fun, the kids have a blast. And it's not that we're learning and going to classes, but we're going to museums, and we're seeing the historical monuments and trying the local foods and stopping at, the street markets. So, there's a lot of unstructured learning going on.
Sure. Okay. Do you know how many hubs or pop-ups you've had since you launched? You plus the other?
Oh man.
Like dozens and dozens?
I think we're up, right. I think we're over 40 events now. And I have, 270 families who have attended. But a lot of those families have come back again and again and again. So yeah, it's really, it's just so neat to have these outlets. So I think we just need someone to organize it, someone to say, all right, here's where we're going to be. If you want to come, we've got stuff to do all week. Just come and meet people, hang out, have a good time. And it resonates with a lot of people. So we've got families who've returned 2, 3, 7, 8 times.
Oh and
it's been great. And we've made fantastic friends, and our lives we're so enriched now that we have the social piece covered, plus we still have the travel covered. So it's really been a huge blessing for our family.
Yeah, and us too. We only did one, but we want to do more. Now, we typically like to stay longer, and your things are only for a week, but I think some people also hang out for a while. And tell us about the one in Normandy at a castle that included a teen prom. That was a month long? That was longer, right?
So yeah, there were lots of moving pieces to that one. So typically my family likes to stay about a month in each spot, which people who know us know. So they're like, oh, there's a Seoul pop-up coming up. And that probably means Rachel will be in Seoul for a month. And we will be. We'll be there from September 3rd to October 5th. But the pop-up is usually the 3rd week. So we kind of have our bearings a little bit. And we know the area. But so people who know us know that they can come earlier or later and still have Worldschoolers to hang out with, which is really nice. And then for the prom, so here's how the prom started is a friend of mine was like, they really should do a World School prom somewhere. And I thought we could probably do that on our platform. And so I put out feelers, and one of the first person to respond said, we could have prom in a castle. I'm like, yeah, we totally could have prom in a castle. Let's see what we can do. So again, we started looking around, and at the same time, I got an email message from someone I've never met before, and she's a Worldschooler, and her family had just stayed a month at this castle in Normandy. So I started talking with the castle owner there. She's fabulous. I highly recommend them if you ever want to stay in a co-living situation. They're just called Chateau Co-Living, and they're in Normandy. And they've got apartments, and they've got rooms in the castle. And so she and I coordinated this whole thing. But in order for us to rent the prom space, it just made sense for people to be at the castle and to stay and enjoy like what a co-living experience can provide. So we had a month-long co-living where there were 13 families staying at the castle and the apartments there. And then we had a 1-week pop-up in, again, week 3. And the last full night of the pop-up was the prom for the kids. So like all the teens got to know each other during the week. And that Friday night was like the biggest dance celebration I've ever seen. Like school dances, I don't know if you remember, people would just like sit around and, maybe look at the people who were dancing. But I mean, this was full on jumping for 4 hours. I like the people who were in the apartment below, they're like, yeah, Gangnam Style's coming through my roof right now. And it was just so fun.
Because my daughter was a little too shy to sign up this time, but in the future, she did say in the future, if she feels more comfortable when she's a little bit older. That is so amazing. So cool. Julie says we might see you this summer in Madison. I guess you're having it.
Ooh.
Madison. Okay, so can we do a rapid fire, a round of Worldschooling Q&A, some tips, if you don't mind?
Sure,
what are your favorite travel apps that you have on your phone?
Okay, I definitely use Google Maps all the time, and I love it because you can download the map, which still gives you turn-by-turn driving directions. It doesn't give you the step-by-step walking or public transport directions, but if you start your walking route while you're on Wi-Fi, you can continue walking that route even though you've left your apartment. So that's been super handy. And I use it in the States too, even though I have full cell phone coverage here, because if you're in a sketchy area for coverage, the downloaded map will take you through with directions. So that's, definitely that. I use a couple different rideshare apps like Lyft and Uber and Bolt. And I know when we get to Asia, a lot of people use Grab. And I think you kind of have to look for each location to see which ones people are using in different areas.
How do your kids entertain themselves when they're on a long plane or bus ride or whatever?
Pretty much with electronic devices. So for a long time, I was super strict about screen time, and I finally just loosened up a bit and realized, well, what are they doing on screens? They're playing games with their friends. They're talking with their friends. They're sharing photos with their friends. I'm like, what I'm doing is really impeding the social aspect that they need. So, and again, they're older and they're pretty good at self-monitoring. It wasn't in the start, like they would just be on all day, every day. But then after the novelty wore off, like they're very good at monitoring themselves at this point. So when we had travel days, and even earlier when I was restricting screen time with the travel days, it's just, you know what? I kind of write them off because you don't know if you're going to get delayed. You don't know if you're going to lose a bag. You don't know what's going to happen. So, just keep people happy, have some good snacks, enjoy your movies. It's just one day. So you have to get where you're going. So basically, I just let them do what they want. And they're older now. When they were younger, we would have Play-Doh and coloring books and sticker books and, the fun hands-on stuff for younger kids. But with the older kids, they're pretty easy travelers.
No, I mean, my kids didn't have a lot of electronics when they were younger, but when they were 7.5, we started Worldschooling. They both got iPads. You've probably been to lots and lots of airports, and there's some good ones and not so great ones. So do you have any favorite airports or any interesting memories or tips or thoughts about airports?
Can't say that I have any favorites or any good stories. I do have one airport tip though. And when our kids were little, and this only applies if you have a flight where you have assigned seating, because sometimes you need to get on and choose your own seat depending on the carrier. But if you have an assigned seat with little kids, we would always be the last people to board because I would be running the kids up and down the hallways at the airport. We would be doing Simon Says and jumping jacks and push-ups and whatever it was, if we knew we had a long flight coming up. So, and again, this was when we were doing the one big checked bag strategy. So we just had a diaper bag and snacks and, a couple activity things for the kids. So we had one bag. It didn't even need to go in the overhead bin. It could go in the seat in front of us. And that really, really helped with our flights, just to burn off that energy before we got onto a big flight.
Usually they say, families with small children board first, but you're saying board last.
Yeah. Like, why sit on the plane for an extra 30 minutes while everyone's boarding and trying to get their luggage put up? And yeah. And then you can also enjoy the looks people give you when you walk on with younger children as you go right to your seat. But yeah, our kids were pretty good travelers. And actually, I feel like international flights with kids go much better than domestic. So in the US anyway, a lot of the domestic travelers are business travelers. So they're really not too open about having a kid kick their seat or whining in the background. But when you're on an international flight, especially a long haul flight, it just seems like everybody's more chill about it. And I think that helps the kids stay a bit calmer too. And people understand, you got to get where you're going. And if you have a kid with an earache, you have a kid with an earache, and you do your best, and you're not going to see those people again. So yeah, exactly. I never freaked out about having the kids on the flight, because you're not going to see those people again anyway. So even if they're upset with you, you know what?
Yeah.
Better luck next flight.
Yeah. Are you guys able to sleep on the flights?
Depends on the flight. Typically, we don't sleep that great on flights, but I do really try to protect my sleep while we travel, because you're always in a different bed. You're always with different, amount of light in the room. I love when there's blackout blinds, but I would say 20% of the time, maybe we have blackout blinds. So I do carry an eye shade. I have one in silk that I like because it's pretty breathable. And then I carry earplugs all the time. And I do have a brand I like. There's a brand called Max, MACKS, and they have an ultra soft earplug, which doesn't hurt my ears, because a lot of them really bother my ears, even after 20, 30 minutes. So those I can wear all night without too much discomfort.
I will look that up, because I have problems with earplugs. They just, they're not comfortable at all.
Yeah.
What do you do with your mobile phones? Do you have an international plan? Do you have Google Fi or Fi, or do you have SIM cards? What do you do?
Well, I've heard the Google Fi is just a big problem, because they cut you off if you're not in your home country. So we've never messed around with that. We do have a US number, and that service I'm able to suspend when we're not in the States. So we're not paying for extra service that we're not using. I never use it abroad, because it's very, very expensive through our carrier. So what we do, and we've done 3 different strategies. The first strategy is just use Wi-Fi. And again, if we have our downloaded maps, we can still pull up a map and see where we are, because it'll pin you on the Google map your actual location. So you can walk the streets just without the walking directions. So that's really useful. And then you just pick up Wi-Fi at a cafe or, a big supermarket.
You don't buy SIM cards here and there, wherever.
So if we don't need them, we don't buy them. We're kind of cheapskates. So we penny pinch when we can. Now we do need them when we're running pop-ups. So in that case, we will either get a local physical SIM, and I like to pick them up at the airport. I know I typically pay a commission to the airport for that convenience. And then sometimes if it does seem too expensive, we'll just get to where we're going via Wi-Fi, and then the next day go find a local Vodafone store or whatever the local carrier is, and pick up a physical SIM there. And then recently we started using eSIMs. So we use Airalo, but I know there are many companies, and Airalo was a good choice for Europe because it covered, 23 or 34 countries. It was something ridiculous, and it was really nice. I know when we get to Asia, their Asia plan isn't as economical as some of the local Asian eSIM companies. Okay. So I need to research
later, if you can put that link in the chat, that would be great. So basically, you go to the website, you pay for it, and then what? Do they email you a code and you put that in your phone? How does that work?
Sorry, for the eSIM?
Yeah, how do you get it to work on your phone?
Okay, so through Airalo, you would go to the website and you choose which package you want. So you can choose it by the country or by the region. You can also do worldwide, but that one's very expensive.
And do you do this on your phone or on your laptop?
You need to be connected to Wi-Fi. So you can do it on the phone. I've done it on the laptop. I prefer a real keyboard. And then what happens, you make the purchase, you can either get a QR code or like manual numbers to input. And then on the phone, and they'll walk you through the whole thing. So they'll say, here's how you do it on iOS, here's how you do it on Android. And their website has a blog post that tells you how to get everything entered into the phone. And then once, I think most phones that are eSIM compatible can take 2 to 10 of the embedded SIMs. So you can turn them on and off as you need them. So right now, my husband has an eSIM for Europe in his phone. We're just turning it off. Well, we don't have any data left on that plan anyway, but we're turning it off, just labeled it Europe. And then we'll know when we get back to Europe next time we can add more money to that eSIM and be up and going again.
You just have an account with them and you just pause it. And like the one that you have in the US, you have a phone number with an American cell phone company and you suspend it, or not suspend, you just pause it, right?
So the US number, we just, we suspend it. So it's on pause while we're gone, and then I just call them and have him reinstate it when we return.
With now, the same number?
So that's the US number. So, but the eSIM, here's the trick with that. You do not get a phone number. So you don't have a physical phone number in the country. So if you need to make calls, it's impossible. However, many places around the world use WhatsApp, and like the businesses and everything. We've made dental appointments over WhatsApp. People are really well connected outside of the US on the WhatsApp application.
At the airport, do you get money out in ATMs or money changers, or what do? Bring cash?
We don't carry a lot of cash. We tend to have, we'll have US dollars on us typically, but not, $100, $200, not much. And we typically go to the ATM at the airport, at least take out a little bit. So if we need a taxi or something of that sort, we've got some cash on hand. Usually the ATM rates are better if you're in town and shop around. When we were in Merida, Mexico, there were 2 ATMs next to each other, and one of them was going to charge, let's see, I think about $17 for the withdrawal we wanted to take. I was like, boy, that seems really steep. And I walked 1 foot to the next ATM and they charged like $1.50. It's like, oh, well, no brainer. So yeah, shop around. If something seems ridiculous, don't use it. And then also they'll always ask you if you want to take out with their conversion rate or your bank's conversion rate, and your bank's conversion rate is going to be a lot better than whatever they're going to convert.
That down. Exactly. And then when they say you want it in US dollars or in the local currency, always pick the local currency.
Local.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's assuming too that you have a credit card with no foreign transaction fees, which is pertinent to travel because those foreign transaction fees are ridiculous.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we have
I have a Schwab account, and I have a post on my personal Facebook page of tons of money tips. And, in my program, I have a 12-week program. I do have a bunch of recommendations for people all around the world to have good international kind of friendly cards. Okay. Have you had any issues with scams or thefts or bad guys trying to rip you off? And how do you avoid that?
Okay, so we've, I don't have all the answers to that. We've had a few experiences, but honestly, it's been over a really, really long period with lots and lots of travel. So we had one bad experience in Argentina, and the same experience. So the Argentina one, boy, that happened 15 years ago, and then Mexico a year and a half ago. Same scam. You thought we would have figured it out the second time around, but what happened is we paid something in cash. So one time was a taxi driver, one time was gas station attendant. And what they did is we handed them the cash. We were waiting for our change, and they're like, "You didn't give me enough." We're like, "Oh, shoot!" And they showed us what we gave them. And what happened is they swap out a similar colored bill for the big bill. So like in Mexico, the 1,000 peso bill is blue, but so is, I think, the 20 or the 50. So they were waiting for someone like us. And of course we're like, oh, our mistake. And so again, it only cost us maybe $25 or $30. And then I did have a wallet lifted in London. I was the perfect target because I was in a pub and my friends had just walked in. I was buying pints of cider. They walk in, I put my wallet in my back pocket, which I normally don't, turned around, hugged them. We went and sat down, and I didn't realize till about 30 minutes later that it wasn't there. And this guy I think it was a guy, and I think I know who it was, but because I thought he was going to hit on me at the bar. He was really checking me out. I'm like, wow, gotta get out of here. But they had charged $30,000 US over my card. I got all the money back. It was no problem at all. The credit cards were awesome. I had 2 credit cards in there and then a debit card. And so the credit cards immediately pulled all the charges. I never spent any money on that. The debit card,
They
the money
spent
came
that
out of
much
my
money in
account.
such a quick time.
Yeah, it was all to the same website where they were buying, I can't even remember, some kind of like it was some kind of collectible toy.
Yeah,
So
they return it and
anyway,
get cash or something. That's terrible, terrible, terrible.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But I just want to say the credit cards were awesome. And then I was able to get the new account numbers right into my Apple Pay.
Okay.
So I was up and running within 15 hours, I think. So
awesome.
had my new credit card numbers and could use them along the way. So it was I mean, it was a little bit of a headache, but it just cost me some time. You know,
no, I had a debit card, 2 debit cards skimmed in Bali by using a ATM machine. And so always go to a bank or to a busy shopping mall, not some random ATM machine on the side of the road. How do you guys usually get to your transport? Do you hire a limousine? Do you take the bus? Do you?
Okay, so we look for what's most economical and sometimes whatever's most convenient. So if we're just arriving in a place, it might be that we take a taxi, but a lot of times there's really good public transport from the airport into the city center. So we will just take a look around and see what the best bet is. So we've trained, we've taxied, very, very rarely hire a car. But we just, yeah, basically we shop around and we have 4 people. So sometimes taking that taxi is maybe $1 extra per person than it would be to take the public transport. So, I mean, it's always nice to have the taxi because then it's door-to-door service. But yeah, I think as you travel more, you become more and more comfortable with different modes of transportation and you know how to figure it out a little faster than, there's a learning curve. So once you know how to figure it out in one system, it gets easier and easier as you go to new countries.
Cool. How do you guys deal with jet lag? Because I'm bad at it.
I'm not so great. It depends which direction we're going and like how quickly we hit the ground. So I think traveling west to east is a little easier for us. And if
east is harder, right?
Yeah, and in my opinion, yes.
I agree.
But if we're really excited about where we're landing, sometimes we just like hit the ground running and we're off and going. I don't do anything particular with melatonin, though a friend of mine just told me about a great app and I can't think of the name of it right now. I think it's TripIt. And she said, which I know is a different travel app for like planning your trip and putting all your reservations in it. But she said what you do is you program in, I'm leaving this time zone and arriving on that time zone on such and such a day. And for like a week ahead of time, it'll say like, now's the time to turn off your lights this evening and take a melatonin so that you start like transitioning yourself into the new time zone ahead of time. And then once you arrive, it'll say like, set your alarm for 7:30 a.m. and get outside and get the sunshine. So yeah, the best things that I've done is using a lot of local sunshine. So get up in the morning, get out in the sun, earthing. So like taking shoes off, going swimming, being barefoot, touching the earth. The theory behind that is that you're realigning yourself with the Earth's magnetic fields, which are different from area to area. Again, if it works for you, it works for you. It just makes me feel like I'm doing something of the sort. I try not to nap, but sometimes you just have to. And but set a timer, so don't let yourself nap, from 4 p.m. all the way till overnight. Unless you know you're going to sleep all the way through the night.
One of my daughters is so hard to wake up when she's down for the count. I think I just try to plan. I mean, if I can, I try to plan we're going to need 3, 4, or 5 days or whatever to kind of ease into it and find a cute place on the beach or whatever, like out from the major attractions just to chill for a bit. Okay, so any other challenges other than the thefts that you mentioned that you faced, and any way, how would you recommend to overcome any challenges?
I would say as far as travel challenges, we don't have many, but again, my husband and I met in 1994. So we've been traveling together for a long, long time, and we have a lot of travel strategies. And you just get better at it as you go again and again. I think our biggest challenge, the biggest one we've overcome, was the socializing for the teams. So we're definitely, we're always looking for things to do with the teams. There's camps, there's hubs, there's pop-ups, That was super important. But I think the one that we continually face is this whole idea that unschooling is not a great choice for our family, especially if they want to go to college, or like there's a lot of backstory about that, and people don't necessarily understand when you step out of normal life path, like, you know, what's wrong with that, and what are they doing, and they're going to ruin their kids.
To learn certain things.
Yeah. So even with my oldest going back to school, there was, you know, a little bit of drama too, like, well, he's going to be better prepared than the other kids if they don't go to school. And I'm like, I just think they were really prepared anyway. And actually, if you're interested, and I can throw this in the comments, I just wrote a blog post about Jasper returning to school and some of his insights, and then some of my conflicting thoughts, because I used to be a public school educator, and how I would, you know, look at education from the world schooling point of view versus a traditional school point, and like comparing and contrasting. And yeah, I had a lot of different thoughts during that graduation ceremony, just about what we expect from our kids, what we're preparing our kids for, and if schools are actually doing that. So I think a big challenge for us is just naysayers in our family, even though we've been doing this for years. You know, we still get, the questions in the back end. It's not the fun, you know, not the funnest thing to answer them.
It's hard. It's hard when you have a family member or whoever, you know, that just question what we're doing. And yeah, I have a presentation I've given in the past, and maybe I'll do it eventually again. I mean, I give that presentation in my 12-week program, but just about the history of the education system and a lot of problems with it, and why world schooling, homeschooling, all these other ways, alternative methods are so much better, and it's going to better prepare our kids for the 21st century and the future, and the traditional system's not. So I'm not going to bore you all with it right now, but I will one of these days. I do have a YouTube video on the top 6 ways to world school, but I don't think I go really into like the problems with the traditional school system. So it's super interesting that you've had this experience with your son going back for his senior year. So please post that blog post. Okay, we've been talking for a long time because you have so much awesome information to share. But what would you say the best lessons that you've learned, or biggest benefits that your family has had from all these years of world schooling? Because we have a lot of newbies in our group and experienced world schoolers too. But what for your family has been just the best blessing, the lesson, the thing that you want other people to know?
I think the number one benefit for me was having this time with my kids, because you only get 18 years with them. And if they're in school that whole time, you're not seeing them much. By the time you wake them up, get them on the bus, wait for them after school, get them home, you know, you may not even be home. And then if they're off doing any extracurricular activities, and then homework, and how much time are you actually interacting with your kids? Are you, you know, who's raising your kids? Who's listening to them? Who's hearing them on the struggles in life? And I think when we switch to world schooling, like, we're with each other 24 hours a day. And yes, it takes some adjustment.
Could be good, it could be not so great, but generally it's
right. And well, it's a lot better when you figure out the social part, because it got really rough there for a while, and you know, we persevered through it and we found some answers. But the thing is, with the world schooling, we're commonly having family meetings and checking in with the kids, like, what's going right? What are you enjoying right now? What do we need to change? What do we need to stop? Anything? And I think those kind of questions, and listening to their answers, those are not questions I was asking them when they were in public school. I wasn't asking them like, how do you feel about your school? How do you feel about going to school every day? Is it okay with you? Should we change something? Like, it was just like, you're doing your job, I'm doing my job. Right. So I think we're a lot closer together as a family, and I think we're a lot more on, we're understanding each other's mental health aspect too. Like, I mean, sometimes in school you're dealing with a lot of bullies, and then you're just telling those kids, go back. Like, oh, it'll fix. We'll talk to the teacher and that'll fix it.
That's part of life. Well, not in world schooling life. We don't have a lot of bullies.
Right. But just the people who don't like unschooling.
Yeah, well, and we don't have to hang out with them. We have more choice. I'm going to post the website for the Worldschool Pop-Up Hub. So that's a project, again, not a moneymaker. I forgot to ask you what you and your husband do to fund your travels. And Julie asked if you own any property in the US.
Okay, so no, we don't currently own any property in the US. We're state of Wisconsin residents, but just to have a state to be a resident in. So we have our driver's license through there, and we follow the Wisconsin homeschool laws. And then I'm an author and a yoga instructor, and my husband works with stocks and investments. So he's a little bit tied to the New York Stock Exchange, but it's pretty much just working for himself and taking care of investments for our family. So
Awesome.
we worked really, really hard to have that independence. And like I said, we've been working on it for almost 30 years, that we've been penny pinchers and knowing that we wanted to do something differently with our lives. So
Yeah,
now
well,
we're living off
I forgot to ask you that too. Like, how do you guys stay to a budget? Because I feel like we and so many other families are like, oh, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this. And later on the credit card statement comes and we're like,
Yeah, well, you'll see, like, even during the pop-ups, we hardly ever go out to eat. Like, we went out for my birthday last week, and all of us at the table were like, when's the last time we had a meal out? And we're like, I think it was Romania, which was, 4 months ago. So we don't eat out much. And then during the pop-ups, like, we leave kind of the lunch open, so you do what you want for lunch. And sometimes you stop at a cafe with other people. My family often goes to a grocery store, and we pick up some lunch meat and cheeses and fruits and vegetables, and we just have a picnic. So that's one of the ways we keep our costs down. We don't go to a lot of big ticket items. Like, we've been to Disney World, but we don't typically, budget for those sorts of experiences. And if we do, the kids have Christmas money. But also staying for a month in each place, slowing down a little bit, because with the monthly rentals, typically you get a discount, but then also you're not paying for transport between places. So South Korea, I think our visa will be for 90 days, and we're going to stay almost 2 months of that. So, like, if you can max out your visa until your next flight, or big transport expense, try to do that. I'm trying to think. We do our own laundry. We don't send out our laundry. A lot of the things that we pinch pennies. Like I said, if we don't need a SIM card, we don't buy one. So some things are convenience, some things are necessity. You've got to decide for your own family what that is. Our wardrobes, if anybody knows me, like, this shirt that's been around the world with me. Yeah, and they're like, oh, there's Rachel in the red palm tree shirt again. I don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't stink.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. Okay, those are great tips. Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes because again, when my daughter and I were traveling around Italy and the prices are much higher, we did stay in a hostel one night for 2 nights.
We do that.
Yeah, okay. And then we, instead of renting the whole Airbnb, we rent a room. We do try to have one with our own bathroom if possible, but we've met other awesome people that way, other travelers and the host or whatever. So I really like that. Julie's asking how do you maintain residence without having a residence? I mean, for me, I just use my mom's address. What do you do, Rachel?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we use Lance's parents, but they are our legal mailing address in the US. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I do have a traveling mailbox, and I'll post that down below. Just because when I try to get my mail emailed to me, and I just don't want my mom to deal with all that, and her taking pictures. So traveling mailbox scans whatever I get, important stuff. Yeah, I think that's it. We got, I asked you a ton of questions. I try to do this 45 minutes. We went a little over. Julie asked some great questions, and Lauren too. And yeah, so you guys, Rachel's in this group. So go ahead, if you watch the replay, just ask questions and tag her or me or whatever, and we'll try to get your questions answered. And yeah, I mean, Rachel, do you have any questions or any comments about world schooling for the newbies? I mean, wouldn't you say this is an awesome way to live, and don't we want to encourage more people to do it so we have more friends to hang out with?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the hardest part is getting started. Like, it's just terrifying. I don't know anybody who got to skip the leap of faith. Like, you just have to jump in. There's no way around it. You don't know if it's going to work, but you're not going to know if you don't try. So we started out, we just said, let's try it for a year and see how it goes. And if it works, then we'll continue and we'll refine as we need to. And we've had to make a lot of refinements. And that's just, I mean, it's a great life lesson that you've got to stay on top of what your kids need and figure it out as you go. So I can't imagine a different lifestyle or something that's more enriching for my kids or beneficial for our family. So yeah, we have no plans of settling down soon. And people ask us all the time, like, oh, where would you settle? And I'm like, I don't know yet, because I haven't found that place I want to settle yet. I love the new. I love seeing and hearing and eating new things, and just, you know, it's like a very rich life that you get to see what life is like all around the world.
I agree. I agree. And I would say there's 3 tips for newbies if you're scared and if you not sure you want to do this full on. One is do a trial run like what you said. And you don't have to do a whole year like Rachel's family or my family did, but give it a try. Number 2 is find community, sign up for one of Rachel's week-long pop-ups in the US or nearby. I mean, you have them all over the world and other people, because once you go there just for a week or so and you meet all the other awesome families, you ask us questions, you see how we do it, then that will give you the courage. And 3, I have a 12-week, very comprehensive course on how to world school and travel extensively. As a family, I've got over 50 hours of content, actually probably even more when you watch the replays of the interviews from last time. So, and you could be a member forever. So reach out to Rachel or myself. We will be posting links to whatever we've been talking about. And Rachel, yeah, super great to catch up with you. And thank you so much for spending the time. And I hope to see you in real life again. I really wish we could go to that Seoul, Korea pop-up, because I'm half Korean. My kids love Korea.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah, I'll cross my fingers, because yeah, anytime that we can cross paths is amazing. Yeah, and it's been super fun. And I want to just reiterate too that talking to other world schoolers is really important. Like, we have gleaned so much information from the people we have met. Like, how did you deal with that with your kid? I'm like, oh, brilliant, we could do that too. So yeah, it's just really, it's super neat just to meet people who are thinking outside the box. So don't even, with our events, you don't need to be a world schooler to come. You can just come as you are. Like, I just say, anyone who's interested in traveling, just come learn more about this and be part of the community, because it's something special.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel.
All right, thank you. See you soon.
Hey, thanks for watching. I'm Lizz Quain. My twins and I have been traveling and world schooling for about 7 years, and I'm happy to share our experiences. Make sure to check out all the other videos on my channel. I have a playlist of interviews of fascinating world school families and service providers who share lots of info and wisdom about world schooling, traveling, and the digital nomad family lifestyle. If you're new to world schooling or have recently launched and are struggling because you're kind of winging it, if you need some help, I do have a super comprehensive 12-week program on how to world school and travel extensively as a family. I share lots of info on travel logistics, where to go, how to find community, how to immerse yourself into local cultures, and the variety of ways to educate your kids while traveling above and beyond homeschooling them yourself, and much, much more. Make sure to watch my free 2-hour masterclass on how to become a world schooling trailblazing family. That is a great way to learn how to get started. I'll include a link in the description with more info. Thanks and happy trails.